Yeah.
So,
yes, I mean, we just want to make it clear that there was no threat to the Premier. On these sides, yes. Okay. So yes, there was no threat to the Premier.
Yes.
All we were doing is saying that the gloves are off all we were saying is that the gloves are off. There was no threat implied or intended to the Premier, and we're not going to play nice this time, hence this today and the discussion yesterday, and we just want suppliers or potential suppliers for equipment and or services to the government to know that we are watching, and do they want to be associated with the show over the next 3 years.
and so the sort of action that we've seen so far, like going out on boats, getting as close as you can without obviously getting into too much trouble, is that the sort of thing we're going to be seeing again?
Exactly. We're just going to ramp it up a notch. I mean, we did everything properly. We talked to the police. The police congratulated us on the way that we conducted the whole campaign over the last 5 years or so. Sorry, last 5 months or so. It feels like 5 years, but it's not. And essentially, you know, we think we live in a democracy, but the way this is carrying on like a dictatorship. There's been multiple surveys done by many different media organisations. Even the government have run their own surveys, and every single survey that I've seen is 70 to 80% of those surveyed have said that they do not agree with the shark dump. How many surveys do there have to be before the government says, okay, maybe it's just a few organisations that have got a vested interest in going ahead with this, to listen and to change his mind and to say, okay, we've got it wrong. Listen to the scientists, listen to the international media, the international scientific organisation, etc., to say, okay, we stuffed up. There are better ways of doing this. We're not saying that people should go into the ocean and let people get attacked by sharks or killed by sharks. Obviously, we're not that silly. What we're saying is that there are better ways of doing it. There are better things that should be done. Money should be spent on research. We don't even know where great whites go now, where the white sharks go. So there should be more investigation, more research. The money should be better spent. So rather than spend $6 million over the next 3 years, I'm sure that the pensioners, for example, would far prefer to have that in their pocket than to be spent killing sharks off the coast.
In the name of leisure time
activities. In the name of making people feel better.
Yep.
It's been acknowledged by many people, far more than the Department of Premier and Cabinet and Department of Fisheries, that it is not going to have the effect of reducing large sharks off the coast of Perth and off the southwest coast. The tiger shark, which is the prime shark that they've been catching during the trial, and also that they're anticipating they'll catch and kill around 900 tiger sharks over the next 3 years, hasn't been acknowledged as being a cause of a human death in the southwest of WA for over 70 to 80 years.
It was put to Colin Barnett that they're relying on Brazilian studies in terms of being fearful of tiger sharks. He seems to think it's relevant to have a look at shark research from all around the world, but of course, wouldn't it make more sense to look at
They are cherry picking the research, they're cherry picking the information that they want. All they're doing is taking the data that suits their argument and presenting that. The PER submission that is available for public comment now is so full of mistruths and misinterpretations that it's not funny.
And an obvious thing to ask as well, after the last public submission period, with a record number of submissions, it still didn't go to an EPA approval. What sort of confidence do you have that they're actually going to pay any attention this time?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that this campaign, from our side of our point of view, has been full of records. I think now it's the third lot of records to the EPA. 23,000 the last time, 11,000 the time before. From what I recall, the head of the EPA was saying the previously highest number that they'd received was in the high hundreds. So they've now got tens of thousands of people worldwide. The sharks are migratory species. Right? They're not our sharks to kill. They're international sharks.
Thank you so much. Natalie, did you have anything to add?
No, Simon's good as well.
Nice.
Can I just add on the tiger shark issue?
during the shark cull, there was people getting in the water with tiger sharks on almost a daily basis. And up north, around Ningaloo and Shark Bay, people are actually actively looking for tiger sharks to go swimming with.
They're paying to go swimming.
People are paying to go swimming with tiger sharks. I mean, they're really appreciated as being one of the
5 years to do exactly that.
one of the most, they're one of the most mellow species of sharks to swim with.
Sorry to cut you off.
No, nice.
It's a very valid point.
Yeah, that's a good point.
In places like Hawaii, they've got a multi-million-dollar industry now where people go actually actively looking for sharks to go swimming with. They're not the killer, the mindless killer that everyone keeps telling us they are. And our government's got a big role to play in that. The government keeps on projecting this image of sharks are out there to eat people. If sharks are out there to eat people, there'll be people getting taken every single day. It's so incredibly rare that it's not even worthwhile. It's devastating when something does go wrong, but at the same time, more people die falling off chairs.
People don't even realise just how many sharks are out there all the time.
They're there all the time.
And
They're
they
there
don't
all the time.
attack.
Whenever you get in the ocean, you've got to assume that within a kilometre radius of you, there will be a shark of some species, of some size. And clearly we've got a number of tiger sharks in Perth. And the question is, what are they doing there? There's a disproportionately high number of females caught, and most of the large sharks that were actually killed were large females, so breeding size. And those sharks take 12 to 15 years to even reach that sort of age and size to actually start breeding. So at the same time, all the sharks that were released that were undersized, the mortality rate was massive. The government's not admitting it, but the damage caused by the hooks was really extensive. Very unlikely that a lot of those sharks would have survived. So we're tackling both layers. We're tackling the sharks that are coming through and replacing the sharks they're killing, and at the same time we're tackling the breeding females. So this is why the EPA should be pushing for a proper assessment to be done, because they need to do the research to find out why these tiger sharks are here and what the effect is of taking out so many females.
So in terms of the action that you're going to take if this proceeds again, you've mentioned going in the water. Will there be those kind of bold attempts to actually unhook sharks or things like that?
I'm sure there will be, but it won't be from the NoWAsharkcull movement. We can only encourage, because we're a movement of individuals, we can only encourage legal behaviour. But I'm sure, like we saw previously, that there potentially will be debating of hooks that take place as well. I'm sure there are going to be behaviours that are out of everyone's control because they're frustrated. They're frustrated that they're not being listened to. This is the majority of people that are frustrated against this policy. So we can't control majority of people. Majority of people are going to do what they are going to do in regards to how they want to stop it. In terms of what NoWAsharkcull encourage is to try and get this done legally without making any violent attempts to try and stop this.
I think what we will step up though is just make the public more aware of what's going on our beaches. I think last season most people weren't aware of the level of brutality that was going on out there. I mean, it's worse than whaling. Sharks are fish and they're not covered under animal welfare legislation. If people saw the images that we were getting on a daily basis, the damage that's being caused to these animals and they're being thrown back alive again, it's akin to finning and to whaling. It's absolutely disgusting. And I think everyone needs to see those images, everyone needs to see that vision, and we'll certainly work very hard to get that vision out there in the public mind.
The Premier accuses us of being violent.
Yeah, and the Premier's trying to accuse us of being violent when in actual fact it's the government that's perpetuating some unbelievable violence off our own coast to protected animals. These are totally protected fish. Ourselves, we got warnings from fisheries to not touch them because even touching them is basically touching a totally protected fish, which we're not allowed to do.
After they've killed them.
After they've killed them.
After they've actually shot them,
Yeah.
we're no longer allowed to touch them because it's a totally protected fish.
So I actually got an official warning from fisheries, so that goes on record. So I've now got a record with Fisheries Department for touching a dead shark
Okay.
that they had killed.
Oh my God, that's really shocking.
Yeah, so they've really misused a lot of the powers they have, and this is again our argument is that we live in a democracy. The public's spoken multiple times and said we don't want this, and the government is misusing everything they've got at their fingertips to basically try and push their own agenda. They're misusing the departments. The Fisheries Department is there to look after fishing stocks, not to kill sharks. We all know that sharks are, in real trouble worldwide. Really big trouble. So our government should be setting an example to basically say we need to protect sharks because they play a vital role in the ecosystem and they're under immense pressure worldwide. But they're not. They're doing the exact opposite. They're saying to the world, hey, it's okay to kill sharks. And they're saying to the general public, it's okay to kill sharks. And we had the classic incident, earlier during the trial, with the classic incident where a man over East was fined $18,000 for killing a great white. And at the same time, our government's actively hunting them on this side of the coast.
So they're saying that they're killing the sharks in the name of making our beaches safer, but there's not a shred of scientific evidence that supports a cull. Simply put, if Colin Barnett wants to make our beaches safer for ocean users, he needs to look at those methods that are proven to be more effective technologies. We need to look at methodologies, different methodologies such as tag and tow policies. We need to look at eco-shark barriers. We need to look at shark deterrent technologies. There's so many different alternatives out there. I think Colin really needs to assess why it is that he wants to pursue this policy, if it's due to his own personal stubbornness now, or if he's really trying to protect people.
Thank you. And your name? Are you happy to have a first name?
Laura.
Laura. And you?
Andy.
Andy. Lovely. Thank you.
And B. Simon.
And B. Simon. And Natalie. And finally, I was wondering, do you have a message for Greg Hunt?
Please look at this objectively, listen to the people, listen to the science. That's all we ask, is just listen to the science and use common sense. You know, you speak to everyone in the street here, people just go, yeah, it's ridiculous. You know, I mean, during the trial, I even spoke to, every morning I made a point to speak to anyone at the boat ramp. You know, the fishermen and stuff there, even the fishermen are saying, yeah, this is ridiculous. Everyone is saying this is crazy, this is just not a sensible policy. So just listen to common sense, and we live in a democracy, listen to the people, that's what they're saying.
Stop the exemption.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be an exemption, there never should have been.
Yeah.
For me, the power is in his hands. The power is in his hands to do the right thing for people. We've already had the EPA say that they weren't going to assess the policy because the trial was too short. We've had the EPA say that they've put allowing things that the people don't want to go ahead, such as coal mines in Bunbury. And now we're asking to override the EPA if they make a decision that John mines continue for the next 3 years.
Thank you so much. The power, I think he knows the power's in his hands, that's a problem.
Can I just get you to explain what's in the scroll quickly?
Sure.